What's up, guys? Welcome to Information Operation. I'm Connor Ryan, and we're coming at you from Marquette, Michigan, bringing you your locally sourced ideas, thoughts, and inquiries. Today on the podcast, I sit down with Todd Poquette. He is the founder of 906 Adventure Team, a community program that is a nonprofit with the mission to inspire people, particularly youth, to experience outdoor adventures through mountain biking and trails. They focus on building self-esteem, active, healthy lifestyles, and trail stewardship. It was a pleasure to sit down with this guy. Being a part of the program as a coach, it was easy to relate, and I think we covered some ground. So I hope you enjoy and get something out of it. Todd Poquette, what's happening?
What's up?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, 906 Adventure Team.
Yep.
You are the founder, CEO, front man for 906.
That is correct.
How did that get started?
Pretty simple. I looked at the community as it sits at that time, and not so much today, but I thought two things. For the average guy in his 40s, or gal in her 40s, there wasn't really a team or an opportunity at that time. And likewise for kids.
Right.
They're just, cycling was obviously growing in 2014, and even before that, 2013, 2012.
2000s in general.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
huge.
It's been just a gradual build,
Right.
but there wasn't really anything for kids and anybody who was below elite.
Sure. Sure. And it's not always about competing. It seems like with 906 you can pretty much tailor to any kind of rider.
I'd say that we lean away from head-to-head competition,
Right.
like me and you duking it out,
Sure.
to collaborative competition,
Mm-hmm.
where you and I help each other get better,
Yeah.
or personal competition where, I am there during that ride more focused on how I'm getting better
Right.
without a connection or evaluation against what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There for you and
Yeah.
there for each other
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah. And in theory, like if kids are making themselves better people, better young people,
Yep.
and if I'm making myself a better dad, and if you're making yourself a better coach, then when we go home or to our place, wherever we go, that should translate into the home. The
Yeah.
family should become better, stronger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's through biking. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Get kids on bikes, get outside,
Yep.
cut down on screen time.
Screen time it's a growing issue, and I got it sitting right here,
Right.
face down.
Right.
But that thing is changing the world.
In a big way.
Yeah, it's not going away,
Right.
but we need to learn how to use it as a tool and not have it redefine the way we communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I suppose it has been a huge tool for 906 to grow.
From a marketing and promotion standpoint, social media, technology in general, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where are the numbers at?
With the Adventure Club,
Right. How big is this group?
this year, when I give a number, it goes between 240 and 250.
Mentors and kids.
That's just kids.
Wow.
From a coach standpoint, I'm going to say we had 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's Marquette County and that's Delta County.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So Delta County was, this was their first year, and they onboarded with us. Basically, just ran Adventure Bike Club,
Yep.
and they also did a few family rides.
Yep.
Their community is at a different point in the evolution of their trail systems
Sure.
and their silent sport community as a whole. They're not where we are,
Right.
just because it's so much further along here in Marquette County.
Not where we are yet.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So age groups are.
We're working with kids from, I say 5 to 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that we had a couple 4-year-olds sneak in.
Sure. I believe it.
But yeah, stated publicly 5 to, let's say, 18.
5 to 18.
Yeah.
And anyone's welcome.
Anyone's welcome.
That's a beautiful thing. And what would you say made the impact What would you say you could see tangible results? Sometimes it's hard to measure eye contact or ability to work as a cohesive team or communication skills. Like, how did you see that translate?
It's how the kids leave the program feeling about themselves. Meaning, they came in feeling a certain way and they left feeling a greater way.
Mm-hmm.
So they gain confidence and belief in what they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just translated into life. It's climbing
Yeah.
a hill. It's facing a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's falling down and getting back up no matter what.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing with the Adventure Bike Club, in the way that we have the dynamics play out, and you saw it because you were there as a coach this year.
Yeah. Privilege.
So the kids, you talked about hills and falling down and getting back up. Sometimes adults have a tendency to want to remove barriers for kids.
Mm.
They want to make things easier.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm a dad, all right? I understand that. There is a mechanism in me, believe it or not. Some people may not believe this, that if I see Cable, I know it's funny.
Yeah.
If I see Cable, who is 8, struggling through whatever, there is a part of me that wants to step in.
Yep.
And either remove that obstacle or just make it easier, or even worse yet, do it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for whatever reason, fortunately, while I have that feeling, I am able to control it.
Reasonably.
Yes. I mean, if I have to, if it makes sense as a dad to step in, then I do. Not to say that I don't make mistakes, but generally speaking, I'm willing to let him and Gavin, the older boy, figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of like the saying. If Gavin comes to me with a problem that I feel is really his to solve, sometimes I don't have to say anything. He'll tell me what the issue is, and I just sit silently looking at him.
Right.
And he's like, he'll shake his head, and he's like, I know what you're going to say.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I going to say? Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Right.
And then he goes and he figures it out. So, where I was going with that is in Adventure Bike Club, and you saw it, I think we let the kids figure it out.
Yep. Every week.
Yeah. We weren't over-coaching.
No.
We're there to support. We're there to coach when necessary. But there is an element to that Adventure Bike Club where we're stepping back, we're providing a safe environment, and we're letting them figure it out.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important.
Right. And it's not always coaching technique. It's not always elbows out, look where you want to go. Sometimes it's like, let's go. Get up.
Yeah.
Spin it up. Come on.
Yep. I think some adults who are intimidated by the concept of coaching, they're overthinking it.
Sure.
I'll look at them and say, do you like kids? Because that's going to probably be the most important.
Sure.
And if they're like, well, yeah, I love kids. I'm like, okay. Can you ride a bike somewhat proficiently?
That is an issue for some, I'm sure.
Yeah, but they don't have to be elite mountain bikers.
Of course not. I mean, we said 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Can you be a good role model?
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep it safe?
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep it fun?
Right.
All right, you can. You hit all 5? Good, let's go.
Right.
You can coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think keeping it safe was probably my area that I had to focus on the most and not be like, scraping corners
Right.
and hitting jumps and
Right.
keeping it on the down low. That was my biggest challenge as a coach, but
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about it this year.
Yeah.
First time around.
They're gonna, the kids are gonna, whatever we do, they're gonna mimic it.
Yeah.
So if I'm off the front,
Scrubbing.
wreaking havoc on the trail,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have 10 kids behind me doing the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of those kids at Bothwell, and I'm sure Marquette High, I didn't get the chance to ride with Marquette High. They are some competitive bikers, and they know what they're doing. They're riding clipless, and they got full suspension mountain bikes, and they're ready to rip.
Yep. Yeah, they're good. They're talented.
Yeah.
The kids that are racing are faster than most of the adults.
It's true.
That's
It's
no
true. I
lie.
mean, you got to put him with Ryan Craig and some of those more elite riders.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yep.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they're actually competing. What kind of races are they doing?
It's cross country
Sure.
in Wisconsin in the Wisconsin Racing League, part of NICA, National Interscholastic Cycling Association.
Yeah.
I wish we had it here.
Hmm.
There is actually a racing league in Michigan. The unfortunate thing is it's all the way down to the south end of the state.
Okay.
So it's here in the state.
Yeah. But
Wisconsin has let us in, and it's been a great opportunity for those kids who want to compete against other kids,
yeah,
not line up against,
the same guys every time.
yeah, or 40-year-old guys, in the local races. And I love the local races,
Of course.
and they are fantastic, I think, for the kids to have an experience of racing against adults. But it's nice for kids to be able to race against other kids and see where they stand for the kids that matters to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense too. And
Yep.
you're a big part of the local races for adults as well, correct?
We run the Polar Roll, Margie Gessick, and Hammer.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And the Margie Gessick was just a few months ago, last month, something like that.
September.
How was the turnout?
It was good. It was our biggest group yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next year, which will be 5 years, will be even bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
How'd you jump on board with that?
It started with the Polar Roll. There was a race locally, fat bike race, that was being held on the Noki weekend, which is a ski weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it for whatever reason, I guess the feeling was it wasn't working. It wasn't growing. So I suggested to I guess the chairman of the single track committee at that time, I have an idea. Can I run with it and see if this thing works and try to get a fat bike race that
Yeah.
will promote Marquette County, but not just Marquette.
No.
I wanted to bring Ishpeming into the fold.
Sure.
This is 5 years ago. Well, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago.
Right. And those trails have come a long way in that time.
Absolutely. Especially just from a standpoint of people knowing they're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been there. Danny and that crew's been building trail for 30 years.
It's all hand built, low key.
Yeah.
People probably get lost out there back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
Like up to maybe last year.
Exactly. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
I've only been here
Yeah.
for 5 years. This is my 5th year.
Is it?
Yep.
So you came in right when the stuff really started blowing up.
Yeah, I came in on a hardtail Marlin and was riding downhill on south trails,
Sounds hard.
hitting big jumps. And then
Hitting big jumps.
and then I got addicted to, because I had never seen anything like this being from Detroit. And so when I got here, I was in heaven.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason that came up, because on my orientation day, someone told me, like, go to South Trails, go see what they got out there. And it was like a match made in heaven. And following year, picked up a remedy and haven't stopped since.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. 906 was the first time, this was my first season ever pedaling. I always used to walk Benson. And so this was, I mean, not only did 906 encourage youth riders to get into it, but it encouraged me to get on my bike and pedal my bike, which was a big thing.
That's a good thing.
Seriously.
That's a good thing.
So,
Younger kids need to see somebody like yourself in there in the mix doing it,
yeah,
right? You're a great role model. It's just it's a good opportunity for you, and the kids need it.
definitely.
Heck yeah.
And it was like, if the kids are doing it, I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because before it was just like, no, I'm just out here to send it. You know what I mean? Like hit
Right.
these, go hit the big hits.
Yeah.
And that was all it was about. That was all biking was ever about.
So-
And then it became
When you walked,
more.
so when you were walking Benson,
Hmm.
I'm curious on this because you could have pedaled up it,
Yeah.
but you didn't. Why?
Because I didn't want to raise my seat. I didn't have a dropper. I didn't
Okay.
have clipless. I was
Were you doing it with other people or were you alone?
depended. If I was alone, I was walking. If I was doing it with other people, I was shuttling. And I was usually doing it with
Okay.
other people.
Okay.
So I would shuttle, right?
Got it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's even that common anymore.
to walk up it.
No. Yeah.
I mean, when we were out with the kids, I still see a fair number of, I don't know, I don't think they're really considering themselves downhillers over there. But I see a lot of guys pushing their bike or walking their bike up Benson.
I know I consider myself a downhiller,
Okay.
even though I was on a remedy.
Yeah. But isn't that funny how, we're using that term or label downhiller.
Hmm.
And then, you know it or not, there's some sort of image that is conjured with that term, maybe of a, dude pushing his bike up Benson.
Right.
And that's just kind of like that's part of that gig.
Exactly. It was cool because I had a full face. That was another reason I didn't want to pedal up that thing
Yeah.
with a full face on.
Uh-huh.
It's hot.
Yeah, we had a couple kids, young kids
With full face
with
helmets.
with full face. You probably saw them
Yeah.
in the adventure bike club rides. And when you're doing this in like July and August, I mean, I'm looking at these kids thinking,
Oh my God.
dang,
Yeah.
he's got to be
Exactly.
roasting.
Exactly.
But I mean, if that's what he wants to wear or she wants to wear, or if mom and dad want them to wear it, that's what they're gonna wear.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is you guys don't struggle with safety or medical issues.
No.
There's not been any serious injuries. Some people think mountain biking's inherently dangerous. Doesn't have to be.
Anything can be dangerous.
Right.
Right.
How's that? I think that plays into ability level. Would you agree?
Yes, ability level, but so here's a play off of that because actually, and you may have been there to hear this. What I told the coaches, as a new coach, you may come in thinking that as the kids are in the program longer in the summer and get better, stronger,
Sure.
that their risk level goes down because they're more proficient.
Right.
But I have to remind the coaches, it's the opposite.
Right.
Because you're dealing with kids. And as they become stronger and can do new things and become more proficient, they become more dangerous to themselves because their decision making is not necessarily on point. They're kids.
Right. More confidence and
More
get
confident,
tired of the mundane choices.
overconfident, right? And that's why, like, if they see a coach take a jump, they may follow that line that they have no business on. So there, it's that's kind of all the stuff that's at play. I mean, we're not only working with kids and getting them out and subtly teaching them skills and proper decision making, but we're working with the coaches too, just to try to, from a safety standpoint, let them understand why some of the rules are what they are.
Sure.
It's to protect
Sure.
the kids.
And when you talk about decision making, how does that translate over from on the mountain, on and off the bike? You know what I mean?
I think if it's a big component with what we're doing because I think if you can attach accountability to decision making, which you can clearly do on a bike, right? You shouldn't have gone off that jump and look at what happened. Or you shouldn't have been riding with a hand off the bars, grabbing for the bar that's in your backpack.
Yeah.
Because look at what happened. Like all the little nuances that, I mean, and honestly, the kids have to go through some of this stuff and have those things happen. So then an adult
Like you
can,
said, I figure it out.
yeah, and an adult can talk them through it. Like, okay, well, next time maybe we'll try this. Well, as we begin to attach, actions and outcome and your accountability and how you got to where you are, that translates directly into life. Absolutely.
Every choice you make.
Every choice you make will have an action or a reaction, and then on top of that, there's a series of actions, reactions that carry forward.
No doubt
And,
about it.
as long as we're in a fun way, in an active way, teaching kids that, I think there's no doubt they bring all this stuff in, right?
Yeah.
They process all of it.
All of it.
Absolutely.
And they don't take it, they take it directly face value.
Yep.
It's honest truth. They don't sugarcoat it with any kind of agenda or anything like that. It's like they know when you're giving them some bull crap.
Yeah. Well, I love working with the kids because everything they do is so genuine.
Uh-huh.
Like the younger you get in the group,
Yeah.
the more genuine every action is,
Right.
because their capacity for manipulation and
Is less.
is less,
Yeah.
and there are no agendas except like to do stuff.
Yeah. It's pure innocence.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's a beautiful thing too, because I think sometimes the kids think it's really serious. Like when they show up, like we're here to do the biking, you know,
Yeah.
and when the coach is a little bit lighter and a little bit less like in enforcing,
Yep.
they loosen up too, and they're like, "Hey man, this is fun."
Yeah.
906 Adventure Team is less of a sports team, it seems, because I do coach wrestling,
Yeah.
and it's totally just a different vibe. These kids are having fun out there. It's not
Right.
about winning. It's not about um, going hard. It's not about, but it can be,
It can be if it's fun.
right? If that's fun for them. But
Yeah.
it's very open. I just remembered being a total goofball, and they love it.
Hmm. They do. I think they respond to it. I also think there's some value in the fact that you're not their mom or dad.
Uh-huh.
I
Big
mean,
time.
you know the general way we approach it is that a lot of moms and dads coach for the team
Sure.
or for the
And that makes sense,
absolutely it does.
right?
They coach for the program, but they're not going to coach their kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to coach other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing wrong with, like, I'm not making any judgment on the way anybody's raising their kids, but I think that separation, I've told people, if I bring my kids into the program and I ride with them, there's a dynamic that's been well established between them and I.
Sure.
And that's going to carry into the program.
Sure.
They need a break from it. I
Mm-hmm.
need a break from it. It gives them an opportunity to take lessons from another mentor, another adult, another
Yes.
role model.
Another role model.
Yes.
It's healthy not only to see, how somebody else may lead or act or carry themselves,
Yeah.
but also that time away
Absolutely.
from the parent's side.
They need it
Yeah.
because it really, in some ways, is the beginning of creating independence.
Yes, it's that saying like character is what you do
Yep.
when nobody's looking. It's
Yes.
that kind of thing because your mom and dad, they're not looking,
That's right.
but you still got to be, up to par.
Yep. The kids learn to work with or interact with other personality types
Mm-hmm.
that aren't their parents,
Right.
right? Kids are notorious for this. If they're away from mom and dad, with mom and dad, there's a known set of rules
Mm-hmm.
and parameters and barriers, and
Mm-hmm.
they know what to do and not to do. Well, when you get with a new coach, they don't know what to do and not to do. So
Yeah.
they may try to feel out the boundaries,
Definitely.
test the coach a little bit and
Yeah.
see how much rope you're going to give them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's healthy. I think that's good.
Sure.
But they're not going to do it, or just a different opportunity when they're doing it with somebody other than mom and dad.
Yep. Yep. Because it's more realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be with mom and dad forever.
Hopefully not. Nothing wrong with mom and dad, but
Sure.
let's be real.
Hopefully not.
We had a kid, I remember when we started down in Delta this year. There's a young kid, I won't use his name. First ride we've done in Delta. Younger kid, he was having some separation anxiety at the point that he needed to leave dad and go to his group. So we had 5 groups, and he was crying. I saw it, approached dad, was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to go. I'm like, well, we got to at least try.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me get the coach over. We'll have the coach talk to him. And if the coach can get him to go over with the other kids, we'll see what happens. Dad agreed. And Coach Steve came over, talked to the kid, did a great job, just nailed it. And pretty soon the kid's like, all right, I'm going to try it, left dad. And, I could see the tentativeness in dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's nervous. It's his kid.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as Coach Steve got this young boy over to the group, and it was the group and Coach Steve and the other coaches, and they left the parking lot, within 3 rotations of his crank, that little guy forgot about dad.
Yep.
It was okay.
Isn't that something?
Yep. And there was never an issue after that. But that's going back to that point about removing barriers and trying to make it so that kids aren't uncomfortable. It would have been just as easy to send him home.
Yes.
At the point where he's crying, we could have just been like, all right, you know what? Maybe this isn't a good day.
Yep.
And send him home. And I don't know. How does that play forward from there?
There might not be a next time.
There may not.
You know, you want to go to 906? No, not today.
Right.
Not today.
Right. So, he, for, I don't know, 5 or 6 year old, did the hard thing and it was okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that could be the difference of a life.
I don't like, I don't want to feel like we're over dramatizing it,
Of course.
but in all reality, it could be.
Dude, when you wave to somebody, you could be saving their life,
You could.
right? So it's not really, I mean, I don't think it's over dramatizing. I think it really does make a difference for these kids.
I think it does. And I think that part of our challenge is that we overcomplicate the whole issue of youth mentoring and just the value of giving kids time.
Yeah.
What we overcomplicate it, meaning we think we need to do more dramatic and more incredible things for kids versus the simplicity of just spending time with them
Yeah.
and teaching them how to act, teaching them the right way to act.
Right. It's not really about like lesson plans. It's not really about like lifelong laying it down on them. It's more so just going for a bike ride.
It's like I always tell parents or other folks ask me about it. It's not really about the bike.
Hmm.
The bike is purely a vehicle.
A vehicle, right?
What we're providing is an experience, and it's an experience for the kids that is social, that allows them to develop this association and alignment with something that they see as bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
So they get to feel like they're part of something pretty cool. They they just evolve through. I mean, there's some stuff that they do. You saw Kirby's Hill. I'm sure that you were on Kirby's
Heck yeah.
with your group or saw other
Some
groups
middle
on it.
school kids, high school
Yeah.
kids, elementary kids.
I mean, we had 7 and 8 year olds
Yeah.
trying to ride, Kirby's, and so there's hard stuff sprinkled throughout the rides, purely at the discretion of the coaches,
Sure.
as it is deemed to be age appropriate.
Hmm.
But the kids, I mean, the amazing thing with it is you would think if you're somebody who wants to remove hard stuff and obstacles from kids' lives,
You would remove Kirby's Hill.
you would take Kirby's out. And you would never believe me if I told you that they not only went up it, maybe pushing their bike, but then they asked to go up it
Again.
4, or 5 more times
Yeah.
under free will,
Yeah. By choice.
by choice.
I witnessed middle school riders riding from Forestville down Wright Street
Yep.
to Lakeshore, up South Trails, up Benson, then down South Trails to get back.
So, okay, define that.
That was nuts.
Middle school being
Um,
6th, 7th, 8th grade,
yes.
right? So you're looking at like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Right. How many miles is that? I was riding sweep and I was just like, dang,
It's got to be 15.
easily.
Cable last year before he turned, well, wait, no, Cable this year. So he was 7. It was before his 8th birthday. Stacy and I took him on a ride. So we started from the visitor center in Harvey, and we took the bike path into Marquette, and we went up. Where did we go to? Oh, we went up and we connected over to the North Trails by
Yeah.
Kaufman Complex.
Yeah.
Okay, we got in over there, did some more to shore stuff, and then we did single track back to the bike path on the lake, and then back to the visitor center. So it was a mix of, paved and
Right.
dirt riding.
That's what we did too. I mean,
He's 7. It was a 20-mile ride.
see, that's nutty. And as a kid on my bike, because I was always on my bike.
Mm-hmm.
It was always a big part of my life, whether it was a BMX bike, a mountain bike, a road bike, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was so cool to ride around the neighborhood. Now these kids are getting to ride around the county,
Exactly.
like around the entire town,
Yeah.
and to explore new ground,
Yeah.
and to see what their hometown truly has to offer.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a couple things there. They're getting comfortable and independent, away from mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
in their community. They're getting to some degree, a bearing, a lay of the land.
Awareness of, yeah,
Yeah, awareness of the resources.
landmarks and locations.
So that's important and valuable from a development standpoint. You have a better understanding of the resources and the just what our county has to offer as it ties to as the current, let's say trail builders and trail organizations,
Yeah,
or as part of 906 Adventure Team. Eventually, we're not going to be doing this anymore because we're going to be too old, or the torch will be passed.
sure.
It's important that I think it's important that the kids at an early age are brought to appreciate this,
Yeah,
to understand its importance and the role it plays in our overall community.
in the community.
And if they aren't brought up to appreciate it, they sure as heck, when they become young adults, middle-aged adults, and so on, they're not going to take the time to protect it because they'll have no relationship with it. So we have to do that now. And the best way to do it, racing is a thing and it's a component, but I'll say probably until I die, unless something drastic changes, 15%, at most 20, of adults and kids truly want to race each other to like battle in the arena.
Uh-huh.
I actually think it's 15. It might even be less. Generally speaking, I don't think people, even when they're in a race, aren't there to win.
Right.
They're there for something personal.
Community aspect too.
Yeah, they might be there to race with their buddy. They might be there just to, like beat what they did last year.
Test themselves.
See if they can do it. Maybe they've never done it. There's a variety of reasons. And that's where I think the adventure bike team or the adventure team philosophy in general flourishes. Because it's inclusive, it's inviting, and it's saying, we can do this. Let's do it together.
Sure.
We're not going to beat each other up.
Right. We ride these trails all the time.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do.
Absolutely.
Let's get some force plates out there and do a time trial. Let's get some. We never get to time it accurately.
Yep.
So some people in the crowd watching us hit the turns, whatever.
Yep.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's big fun.
I grew up in. You coach wrestling, right?
Yeah.
There's that's a sport that's very competition. Head to head.
Hard nosed.
Yeah, hard nosed, head to head. Two dudes in the circle
And
two women in the circle.
Tough loss.
Yeah.
Tough wins.
Yeah, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I played basketball, football, baseball. All the team sports, and I love them, and I think they're entirely relevant in a youth's upbringing.
Sure.
The only thing when I look back that, and wrestling may be different in this respect, but when I look back at, I've used the example before with football, I was a Gladstone Brave and essentially raised to despise the Eskimos.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but it's impossible for that to not play forward somehow, just weirdly through community dynamics into.
So you run into people now, and it's like, oh, you're an Eskimo.
Yeah, yeah. And definitely when you're a kid, I mean, just because you're wearing purple and he's wearing orange and black,
Crosstown rivalry. We hate them.
Yeah, I don't like you.
Wow, you don't even know me.
So I don't know that. Exactly, you don't even know me.
You don't even know me.
You're looking at my jacket and you hate me.
Wow.
and that's okay.
Right.
On what planet is that okay?
Crosstown rivalry.
Yeah. So that's the only part of, the traditional sports.
I wouldn't say it's any different in wrestling.
Yeah. Okay.
Because just because it's individual they still hold grudges.
Yeah. But just think how does that play into society?
It's ugly.
Yeah.
Big time.
So you've got kids that are, whatever, middle school, high school, and you're teaching them this lesson. You're basically encouraging them to judge a person entirely based on the color of their jacket. Where they're from.
That's ugly.
It's something to think about.
And I have tried to combat that by just inviting other schools into our practices. Because it's not a big deal to invite another school into practice.
Right.
But when you're going up against them, it is more of an opponent standpoint. Strictly an opponent, though, not really anything personal. I do tell them get angry at this person though. I mean, it's an angry sport in a lot of ways.
Well, you know,
They're trying to put your shoulders down in front of your mom. Like they're trying to
yes,
embarrass you.
yes, it's that is the reality of that sport.
Hmm.
And if I were in your shoes coaching the wrestling team, my coaching direction would be completely opposite of what it is with the 906 Adventure Team.
I can imagine.
It would be, because in that world, I fully agree with you that if I'm going to send one of my 10 kids in the circle against the other kids, those kids want to embarrass our kids.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
They want to physically dominate you.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the coaching direction would be totally different.
True.
Yeah.
So, what's on the horizon here?
Well, I think, if you look at last year, we had 135, 140 kids in the Adventure Bike Club,
Yeah.
and it sold out within,
For this coming year.
no, well, this year when we did it, it sold out within, I think it was the first week when we opened it, it filled. And then we had to turn away kids all summer. We probably turned away 50 to 75 kids. So huge demand.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And how can you combat that? More bikes, more coaches,
Well, so
more money,
it was
all of the above.
it was a uh, it was a capacity issue this year based on coach count and then the number of days that we were doing the Adventure Bike Club and the way we had it structured. So this year, looking ahead, what we'll most likely do in June, July, and August, and maybe into September. I haven't figured out how to deal with the start of school in September as it pertains to the kids, because there's some pretty significant fall sports that start up. So
Football starts in August.
yeah, exactly. So I think what we're going to do is we'll still go 2 days a week with the Adventure Bike Club, but let's say Tuesday will be a certain group of kids, and there'll be 100 of them.
Hmm.
And then, just as an example, Thursday is another day, but it's another group of kids, and there's 100 kids there.
Okay.
So that would give us 200 unique kids
Yeah.
we're working with.
Did we ride twice a week
We
all
did.
summer?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, setting it up, I mean, trust me, I remember.
Yeah.
Because
What do we do? Tuesday, Thursday?
it was Monday, Wednesday.
Monday, Wednesday.
Yeah. It's like running like a race event twice a week all summer.
I mean, and then you had some crossover. No, you didn't because uh, you did the school programs 4 times a week, right? Or 3 times a week.
The after school programs ran, well, basically, those will start when the snow's out of the woods. So it could be late April
Dang.
through May, and then first week-ish of June. And we ran 3 programs this year. So we
Yeah.
were doing Ishpeming High School, Bothwell Middle School, and then Marquette Senior High School.
Yeah.
Funny on that note, so on the way here to do this, I had to stop and drop off a appliance dolly at Ace Hardware in Harvey.
Yeah.
Brought the dolly back there, and the kid that greeted me, I immediately recognized from not Ishpeming, Michigan Senior High School after school program.
Marquette.
Yep. Yeah, Marquette Senior High School. Sorry. So I've wondered about this young man because he did the after school program. I didn't see him get into
Summer.
the summer program. And his story, he and I talked a lot during the rides while we were doing it during the school year. He had never mountain biked before, or he had very little, and doesn't do any sports. Very engaged in computers and technology, and loves that stuff. And I remember he struggled from a fitness perspective through the rides because he just, he's not doing a lot that is exerting or taxing his cardiovascular system. So I left the after school program wondering, I wonder what's going to be up for this kid, through the summer. Is he going to keep riding, or where's he going to go? Well, boom, today, there he is standing in front of me. So as he's checking my paperwork out, I'm like, hey, did you do the Marquette Senior High School bike program?
Sure.
He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, well, did you keep riding or what happened? He's like, oh yeah, man, I started riding a lot after that. I was like, really? So then we started having this dialogue about it. He kind of lit up.
Uh-huh.
And I know that he had shared with me like his dad loves to ride, but I think his dad works swing shifts, so sometimes it's hard for them to ride together.
Mm.
And that so because it was hard for his dad to ride all the time, that also kind of indirectly kept him from riding because
Mm-hmm.
his dad was the only person he ever rode with.
That was the same for me. If I wasn't on the streets like doing BMX stuff,
Yep.
I was not riding mountain bikes
Yeah.
unless my dad took me to the trailhead.
So the importance of mom or dad getting out there and taking you out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Adventure Bike Club doing it.
One of the two.
So anyway, long story short, they ended up riding a lot this summer, but he talked about the after school program, and he reflected back. He's like, yeah, man, the first 3 weeks, I wanted to die every time we rode those bikes. And I started laughing. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right when you first start
Yeah.
riding, especially if you're riding with kids they've ridden
Heck
for a
yeah.
while.
Heck yeah.
But he said, once I got like through 3, 4 weeks, then I was good.
Well, kids adapt so quick.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you throw
yeah,
something at them, they got it.
absolutely.
They get sore
Yeah,
for half the time we do.
yeah. So good news is he's still riding a lot,
Right.
and he said he's going to do the after school program again.
Right.
Yeah, so that's great.
I can't imagine um, the skills that these kids will have as adults
Oh, it's probably going to be pretty amazing.
on bikes.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty amazing
You know.
just to be able to start that young.
Right, and not just messing around on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
Like I when I came up here, I felt like, oh, I can pretty much handle this. I can handle Marquette, on a mountain bike because I had all those BMX years experience.
Hmm.
And I can only imagine if I would have had trail experience in Marquette on Marquette trails.
Yeah,
You know,
just what it would do from a fitness standpoint,
not a fitness standpoint and a skill level.
a
Like,
skill level for sure.
I mean, what kind of trails are these kids gonna build?
Yeah, yeah, well, and hopefully maintain.
Right.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and what I meant to say when we were talking about riding around the entire city is it really builds a sense of place,
Yeah.
like a sense of belonging to like this amazing landscape that we live in.
Hmm. Yeah, and the kids get comfortable in it,
Hmm.
which is key.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of locals. I don't want to say a lot, but I have talked to locals who will say they don't know what I'm talking about when I mention a cool spot out in the woods, or a
Right.
cool waterfall or a cool little canyon or what have you. And they're
Hmm.
just like, I haven't heard of that. They lived their entire life.
Hmm.
And so, you know,
That's why we got to get them out there.
right,
Yeah.
right. Because who else is doing it?
Well, the nodding back to the technology side, fewer and fewer people, because the technology it gets such a handle on you. It keeps kids, not just kids, it keeps adults busy too.
Yeah,
Because if you think about it if you want to deep dive into it a little bit, so these devices that we have today, the cell phones and the iPads and all that stuff, my parents didn't grow up with that stuff,
correct.
and their parents didn't grow up with that stuff.
Mm-mm.
So there's no, I refer to it as the institutional knowledge of parenting.
Long-term studies.
Yes.
There's no long-term studies.
No long-term studies, we don't understand the impact of it, although they are getting some studies now that clearly shows the negative impact of continuous screen activity on real young kids,
Right, on their development.
on their
Right.
development.
There's a lot of things like that
Yep,
that affects their development.
yep. So they're capturing that information.
Hmm.
From the institutional knowledge of parenting standpoint, where I'm going with that is our parents can't tell us how to do it, what to do, or how they did it because they didn't.
Correct.
And myself as a mid 40s dad, and some of the folks in and around my age or a little bit older, and maybe even a little bit younger, we don't necessarily have the answers on how to do it right. Like it seems to be in a lot of ways that there's some extremes, like either the kids are at home with their devices and they have no rules at all, or they're on the other end and they're at home with their devices and there's too many rules,
Hmm.
right? There's an
So there's
overreaction.
resentment.
Yeah.
Sure.
The answer is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Always.
Yeah. And I mean, we try to do it in our house, and by no means do we have it figured out, but there has to be a balance to some degree, and keeping the kids active and but then still having them learn how to use the technology
Yeah, because
appropriately.
right, whether you like it or not, it's going to be a part of their life. It's going to be a part of the way they make a living.
It's not going away.
Right.
It's not. They need to learn maybe in the same way that you are educated and taught how to control alcohol,
Sure.
um, drugs, the things that were considered to be taboos
Mm.
back in the
Mm.
day.
Mm.
Um, I think that the at least the portable technology needs to somehow be looked at and asked, or driving,
Yeah.
right? Kids that
Yeah.
can't drive till they're 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Or sex, right? All the stuff,
sex,
right? Sex, drugs, alcohol,
right?
the big three.
I think that the portable, the technology, that stuff, I think should somehow be categorized in that stuff that
Responsible use.
responsible use, and we deemed at some point there was an age appropriateness to certain, right? So it's
Definitely.
not like we said to alcohol's evil. Well, maybe they did back in Prohibition, but
It's the
alcohol,
devil.
it's the devil, and you're never going to have it. That's not the answer.
Right.
Is
They,
it reasonable
they
to?
tried that,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm and I'm not saying like devices should be pulled from the public.
Right.
You know,
So I liken it to a hammer, right? A hammer you can build a house with it, or you can smash yourself in the face.
yes,
It's a tool,
absolutely,
nonetheless.
absolutely.
So it's
It
kind of the
can be
same
used
thing
for
with,
good or for bad.
yeah,
You could take a hammer and build a beautiful house. You could go kill another guy with it.
yeah,
So it's all in how you use it.
big time.
And I think that's where I'm going with it is we have to develop a better understanding and way to communicate to kids and families how to incorporate it
Hmm.
in a healthy way.
Hmm.
That's important because like we're sitting here talking, which is very cool in the best and most effective way that humans communicate.
Eye to eye,
Eye to
face to
eye.
face.
Yeah. Like I can look into your eyes, you can look into mine, you can read the body language, you see what's going
Exactly.
on, right? It's just a better connection.
Yeah. And there was no way I was going to do this any other way.
No, I mean I've done other podcast interviews that were not, well, all of them were over the phone,
Right.
not like this. It's just the vibe is much better because we're together.
Exactly.
And that's going to play itself out again, through our society
Yeah.
because I see it already. Kids don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody. Everything is text, everything is messenger.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem.
Like further and further removed,
Yep,
right?
it's going to be a problem. And the problem with us people is like we'll get into a danger zone and we will intuitively know we're in a danger zone.
Hmm.
Instinctively, you kind of know like, oh man, this is going
We're at
somewhere.
the precipice of something.
Something's happening,
Yep.
right? Something's going on. What is it? Well, most of us won't take the time to stop and think about it and be like, okay, well, what is this thing I'm feeling?
Yeah, like look inward. Like
Yes.
let's take a moment, close down the eyes maybe,
Mm-hmm.
do a meditation.
Right.
Crazy,
Yep. Let's just stop for a minute and be quiet
right?
and consider, this potential issue.
Ask yourself a few questions.
Yep. And ask yourself some questions. If you have some deeper thoughts about it, then what can I do
Hmm.
to get involved and maybe help change it?
Yeah, like let's see what this knowledge is,
Yep.
and now let's apply it,
Yep.
and let's do that consistently.
Yeah. What are the ramifications going forward? That's a big question I have is we are developing these generations of kids who lack the ability to have direct face-to-face interactions productively.
Hmm.
Or not even productively, not even
In
unproductively,
general,
just in general. They can't communicate. Where's that going to leave us in 10 years, 20 years?
really pent up inside.
It's going to be a bad place.
I mean, you see it already with mental health.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you know.
That's why mental health's going the way it is. You know, kids. I mean, if kids have that have access to social media, blows me away. Now, kids. Let's define that. From zero, at least to middle school.
It seems like social media is more of a 10 and up kind of thing.
10 at bare minimum and highly controlled.
Yeah, 12 is out of control.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is like when you get into that middle school range, that's where oversight becomes the most important because that's where now there's this platform that can connect them and they can do mean stuff to each other and they can say mean things with no repercussion. It's not like when we were growing up without this stuff, where I walk up to you on the playground and I'm
Sure.
like, hey, blah, 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 right to your face.
Right.
Right. And then you're like, blah, 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 right back. And who
And then
knows,
there's a
maybe,
fight, and then
maybe
there's
we
some,
scrap and,
and then there's some mutual respect for one another.
right, right.
Not to say fighting's a good thing.
Social media basically allows you to launch these just hurtful little missiles at each other.
Yeah. Passive aggressive.
Super passive aggressive. But kids don't possess the maturity and ability to process the emotional roller coaster that is associated with that type of stuff.
Sure.
So it ends up, playing itself out in some of the studies and the numbers you're seeing with mental health and just overall happiness in kids. It's
ADD, depression, anxiety,
yeah, the
bipolar.
ADD that's a tough one because you see it's on the map more and more. Kids being diagnosed ADD or ADHD.
Right. And that interests me because I think and this is a personal opinion that those kids have something special that other kids don't have. And to treat it as a disease rather than something that can be used, like we said, as a tool.
They have an
I don't know
incredible
if I agree with
ability
that.
to multitask.
That's it.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who had ADHD, and this was in middle school, and he refused to take his medicine, and he started smoking pot. And not to say pot's a good thing, but he was incredibly gifted as an engineer and loved to work on bikes. Loved to work on bikes. Like he loved to work on bikes more than ride bikes. And he then went on to be a diesel mechanic for yachts.
Very nice.
And I'm just like,
So he's good.
right, but he was diagnosed severe
Yeah.
ADHD.
I think it's like anything else. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses.
Right.
And when I say that, I'm not downplaying ADHD. I'm not a doctor. Don't proclaim to be one. What I'm saying is ADHD, I think, brings some abilities with that for individuals to be able to do certain things that maybe others can't. And then there's obviously other parts of it that are things that they need to learn to control and work through.
Well, let's get real. We're asking kids to sit at a desk for 8 hours.
Yeah. The interesting note on that is, so I work with kids through the after school program, and then we work with them in the Adventure Bike Club. Well, when you get kids out of school, you get them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
They're exhausted.
Their brain has been, just worked all day, and their attention span is shot.
Yeah.
When we get the kids out of school, we don't really spend a lot of time even attempting to skill instruct or coach. It's like,
That's when I coach wrestling.
is that when you coach wrestling?
Yes.
Yeah, boy, I can't imagine that. I mean, you were there for after school, right? Well, yeah, with Ishmael.
Ishpeming and Bothwell.
Yep. The best thing you can do when they get out of school,
Ride.
run them.
Yep.
Yep, get them riding. Let's burn off this energy, man.
Yeah.
Now, those same kids, because a lot of the kids from Bothwell transition over to Adventure Bike Club.
Sure.
So when we work with them in Adventure Bike Club, June, July, and August, now we get them at 6 o'clock, 6:30 at night. In the summer, after they've been running all day, they come in like the whole energy, just everything's different.
It's beautiful. They want to socialize.
It's totally different.
They want to
they
learn something.
while they still have the attentiveness of, let's say, middle schoolers and elementary kids, it's
Yeah.
still more on point, better, and more directed during Adventure Bike Club than it is immediately following
Without
getting
a
left out of
question.
school.
Without a
You
question.
see it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And, that's an environmental deal.
Yep.
It's just, what did they just spend the whole day doing? In the summer, a lot of them are running all day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they show up for Adventure Bike Club and they're like shot.
Sure. Physically now
Physically.
instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So
What
we've done an
else?
hour, dude.
Has it been an hour?
Pretty
I was
crazy.
just looking.
What is the
I have 10 minutes. What big stuff we want to talk about?
I guess the overall mission.
In a recent video we put out, I don't remember exactly verbatim what the phrase was, but it was basically in an interview I said that adventure, in my mind, is a metaphor for life. That's why we're the adventure team. And adventure meaning, in the context of things, that we're trying, the mission is to provide this opportunity for kids to connect with kids around the community, which helps them create a youth community, feel more comfortable and independent within their community, to your point about learning the trails and the scope of the lay of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And, through a very experiential process, not inundated with structure. And every time I hear the word curriculum, my eyes roll back in the back of my head, because we don't write curriculum.
No, it's lesson plans and rigidity.
Yeah, that's not what we do. We have, as you saw, a little, 20-page booklet with the skills on them.
Yeah.
So that if you and I teach a skill to a group of kids from one week to the other, we'll teach it the same way.
That's valuable.
Yes. So classic in sports is, you coach it one way and then they're with me the next week and I coach it a different way. That's not productive.
No.
That's not efficient.
No. It can be counterproductive.
It can be counterproductive. You confuse the kids.
Yeah.
There's no consistency, which is one of our, if we have core values, I'd call it consistency.
Yeah.
So we don't overly inundate the groups with, we don't shackle them and say, you have to do it this way. Like when you led a group, you were able to go lead the group. We trust you after we've put you through the training and the process. We trust you to take the group
Yeah.
in a place.
Navigate.
Yeah, that's age appropriate.
Ride.
And it's never the same necessarily week to week. So, no two rides are ever the same.
Mm-hmm.
So this experiential process, is allowing these kids to develop on multiple levels: physically, emotionally, socially, and most importantly, all of those roll up to personal development.
Yep.
And they just get a stronger sense of self, a stronger sense of community, and a stronger sense of capability and ability to go do more. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's like, you're trying to do a lot, but keep it really simple.
That's right.
There's art in simplicity that is effective. And that's something that a lot of people just can't quite grasp.
It's nature.
Yeah. Like we just want to make things harder sometimes than they need to be.
Overcomplicate
Yeah.
things.
Like we want it to be overcomplicated. It's it's almost like super complicated stuff seems more amazing. It's not fun if it's simple.
Right.
You know what I mean? Is that weird?
It is weird.
It's super weird.
I'm in the fitness industry, so I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
To overcomplicate these simple exercises that work.
Right. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's and probably you know this better than me. I work out a lot, but I don't necessarily teach it. There is a core set of principal exercises that are like the foundation of
Absolutely.
strength.
Squat,
Right.
pull,
Yep.
push.
Yep.
Let's keep it that
Simple.
that simple.
It's simple.
Yep.
And you know what? We didn't touch on it, but that is another thing that we do with the kids. You didn't participate in the spring training,
Ryan
did
Craig
you?
does
Ryan,
that
Ryan
at
Craig did it.
Superior.
That's something, by the way, you're more than welcome to be involved in it as a
Love to.
coach. But that's, I think, an important thing to touch on. That typically, I think fitness fitness training would be associated with your core sports like wrestling,
Football,
football,
basketball,
yeah, basketball,
track,
track, maybe a little bit of baseball.
volleyball, softball.
Yeah, yeah, all of them. There's a weird vibe sometimes in the cycling circles, cycling world about weightlifting,
Yeah, man.
strength training.
Just ride your bike, man.
Yeah. Oh, that bicep curl doesn't make you any faster on the bike.
We're not doing bicep curls.
Yeah. First of all, I never do bicep curls, and we're not teaching the kids to do bicep curls necessarily.
Correct.
And that's not the value that I find that in my mind comes from a gym. The way we're trying to do it is create kids or to create a structure where kids can understand, like, hey, I just did this 8-week program,
Yeah.
and I'll give you a quick rundown on how we.
It's health.
Yeah, so here's how we
It's
did it.
teaching health.
We started in February this year, Spirit Fitness with Ryan, and we had 21 kids, and we did an intake based on the presidential fitness exam.
Nice.
Okay, so we used a known standard,
Sure.
and we measured their push-ups, their pull-ups, their V-sit reach, their plank.
Crunches or sit-ups.
I don't know if we did we.
1 mile.
I don't know if we did a sit-up, but we did the 1 mile. We might have left the sit-ups out, and I don't know why.
Flexed arm hang.
Yeah, we did we didn't do that. We did the pull-up instead. So we captured all this information. Day one, they hadn't done a thing. Well, whatever they were doing on their own.
Yeah.
And then we ran them through 4 weeks of twice a week, 90 minutes per. I'd say some more traditional gym exercises. We were trying to get them comfortable in the gym, teach them proper etiquette in a gym, teach them how the equipment operates, form. It's when you're working with kids, there's a lot to teach,
I understand.
and sometimes it's one of those environments where you learn through failing.
Yep.
So
As
that
a
was
teacher and a student.
yeah. So we did that for 4 weeks, and then the second 4-week stint was more of a circuit training,
Cool.
where they went in
High intensity.
high intensity. Most of the weight was body weight type stuff, but they got their butts kicked.
Form driven.
Yep. So we did that 8-week program. At the end, we did an outtake analysis of the same intake. Push up, pull up, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Same test.
The findings were mind blowing.
Ryan probably loved that stuff.
Yeah.
Probably got geeked out.
So I knew, having worked with kids in a gym before, that they were going to adapt
Yeah.
and they were going to improve. I never would have guessed that they improved to the level they did. One of the dads post program, I think we were texting, because I had sent him a text and just said, hey, how'd your son enjoy the program? Because he's not a biker. Like, he was a kid that came into it from another sport, another discipline.
Yep.
And I won't forget this, because the dad came back and said, you know what, my son, and he's in middle school, said he'd love to do it again because he learned what hard work can do.
Wow.
So that's right there. He's not the only kid to see, okay, 8 weeks, I applied myself. I did this every week, twice a week, religiously for 2 months.
Hard work pays off.
It pays off.
Yep. And there's no shortcuts.
Like, they can't see it necessarily on the front end. And you know what? Did they want to do it every time they came?
Probably not.
They did not want to do it every time they came. But even as adults, they're not going to want to do what they need to do all the time.
Such as life.
Such as life. So that's a way for us, again, in a safe environment with positive role models and
Professionals.
and people who are trying to bring them along to say, hey, you know what? We got to bear down, man. We got to get after it. Sometimes you just got to push through now wanting to do it.
Yep.
And the more kids that we can, ingrain that thought process in, the better. So
Amen. That's a beautiful thing, Todd.
yeah. So we'll get more kids this year.
And it's all volunteer. It's all nonprofit.
It's all volunteer. I'm the only paid employee now.
Right.
And that just happened this year. Big life change for Stacy and I. Big risk.
Yeah.
Everything else is 100% volunteer. Everything we do is nonprofit under the 906 Adventure Team. We just recently, for a little project we're working on, revalidated the numbers of giving. That's the thing that people don't know about us is we're actually a nonprofit who's given away a ton of money in the last 5 years, and that number's $100,000
To the trails?
to the trails.
Wow, Todd.
So it's $100,000 that has gone to a combination of Range Area Mountain Bike Association, Nokeman Island Trail Network, and then we donated $15,000 to that township highway project.
Right. And you got bikes for kids.
We do have bikes for kids. Yeah, we have the equipment. So I don't know who's going to hear this, who's going to listen to it, but we have the equipment.
Everybody's going to listen.
I hope so. But we have the equipment for kids, and we do not want the lack of a bike or the lack of a proper bike to be the hurdle or the barrier for a kid. So if there's a grandparent or a parent or a guardian or whoever it is, brother or sister, that knows there's a little kid out there that they want to see on a bike, they should get a hold of us because we'll figure it out. This year, I'm throwing out random facts because I know we're getting to the end, but these are important. This year, in 2019, we're going to have a scholarship program.
Cool.
For kids, families who
To get a bike.
Yeah, maybe need some help, either to pay for Adventure Bike Club, to participate, or if they're, and I don't have all the details, but let's say they need to get a different bike. I think that we have to figure out how, submit a request for support from us to provide that cash. So we've had some sponsors come on, local businesses that want to help make that happen.
Sure.
That's going to be available. And, maybe the last thing that I'll throw out, because we got 2 minutes and then I have to go get my son and take him to basketball. I think it's the National Federation of High School Sport Commissions.
Yes.
Okay? You're familiar. The statistic is 50% of high school kids participate in some sort of athletic endeavor. That tells me half of them aren't.
Correct.
Okay? To me, that's a problem. Because I wonder what they're doing. From a fitness, cardiovascular, doing hard things type
It's epidemic time.
standpoint.
An epidemic.
What are they doing? Half the kids.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing with cycling and with the adventure team is it's open to all kids. We've covered the age range. It's pretty much all ages. It's a relevant activity, not just for kids who are already in a sport, because this would be a great cross training
Big time.
opportunity.
Supplementation.
I know skiers, kids who ski, who after participating with us went on to have their best downhill seasons on record.
Without question.
Personally, because of just you're going to work when you're riding a bike.
That's right.
It's not easy.
Yep.
Right.
You're getting glycolytic power.
Absolutely.
You're getting aerobic capacity.
Yep.
And you're even getting a little bit of strength.
Yep. And mental.
That's a big part.
You're pushing through stuff. You're just mentally more resilient.
Yep. Hitting the wall and
Yeah.
then looking at the guy next to you saying, "We got this."
Yep.
All right.
So it applies, the important thing to realize is that kids who may not be interested in a basketball, football, baseball, soccer ball, rolling on the mat with another guy or girl, this they like. I mean, think about it. How many kids,
Or at least try.
or at least try, how many kids don't have a bike? I mean, I know there's kids without a bike, but there's something that is just forever going to be tied to childhood and bikes. They're connected, right?
They are. That's.
I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you get a bike when you're 3, 4, 5 years old. It's just like, gotta teach them.
And it will change their life.
Right.
I mean, we had kids come in. This is the first year where I'd have a parent or two who I've actually coached their kids in the past in basketball or another sport or baseball, and they'd be like, "Hey, Todd, know you coached my son, a few years ago, in X. Well, we both know that he's, not really interested in sports. What about this biking thing? Do you think this will fly? And my answer is there's only one way to find out. But then the follow-up is this is unlike any other sport because we're not forcing them to compete against each other. We're forcing them to work together so they can compete against themselves.
Mhm.
And if you were to put that as an equation on a board, it's crazy what it can accomplish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we got to go, dude.
Thanks for your time, Todd.
Yeah, it's 2:01.
Appreciate it.
Late. I hate being late.
Till next time,
All right,
guys.
next time.
Ride the waves, dude.